What's going on, everyone? So the San Antonio Spurs and De'Aaron Fox are in a very unique, very weird situation, right? Because De'Aaron Fox is going to be due a new extension. The original plan when they went and got De'Aaron Fox was he was going to be the franchise point guard, right? He was the guy that was going to be that veteran, all-star caliber point guard slot alongside Victor Wembanyama. And he, all of a sudden, may end up being the odd man out because the San Antonio Spurs ended up landing the number 2 pick in the draft. Now, whenever I talk about De'Aaron Fox and the situation with the San Antonio Spurs, again, I am not an insider. I'm not a guy. I'm not talking to De'Aaron Fox. I'm going off of the reports that are out there from those people. And once again, you have another report that's coming from John Hollinger that's saying the Spurs might not offer De'Aaron Fox a full max this time. Right? Talked about how there were reports that the San Antonio Spurs may look to trade De'Aaron Fox at some point. Not necessarily this season, but it could be on the horizon. And I know a lot of Spurs fans are like, no, you're crazy, blah, blah. Again, don't talk to me about it. Talk to the reporters, right? These are the people that are getting the information and speaking to the San Antonio Spurs, right? You might not like it, right? Doesn't matter what you like. I might not like it. Doesn't matter what I like. So what do the Spurs do? When the Spurs went and got De'Aaron Fox, getting Dylan Harper wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even like a possibility. There was no expectations, nothing. And then he fell in a lap. Things change. Plans change. I see people that are like, oh, you don't go trade. The Spurs didn't trade for De'Aaron Fox to then go trade him. They didn't. They traded for him to be their franchise point guard. And then they landed Dylan Harper, a franchise point guard. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be this year. But at some point, they might have to make a decision between Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox. And once again, getting reports. So Spurs reporter put this out. And again, it's from John Hollinger. So De'Aaron Fox becomes extension eligible on August 3rd for a 4-year, $223 million deal with the Spurs. But with the addition of Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle, winning, John Hollinger wonders if a full max still is on the table. The Spurs could push for a discount. The Athletic values Fox at $44.6 million per year versus a $49.6 million starting max. One option, a 2-year, $113 million 1+1 with a player option. Another, a 3-year, $150 million deal at a flat $50 million per year. Given the flexibility in 2027, either way, San Antonio has cap room to play with, but a decision's coming. So again, talking about wanting to have De'Aaron Fox take a discount, wanting to have De'Aaron Fox, do a shorter term deal because of Dylan Harper, right? They're talking about doing maybe even a 2-year deal, 1+1 because of Dylan Harper. Again, not necessarily saying that they're going to trade him right now, but they're probably going. De'Aaron Fox is probably not going to be on the Spurs for the next 5 years if that's what you're counting on. Maybe he does. Who knows? But if you're expecting Dylan Harper to be a guy that is, De'Aaron Fox to be a guy that's going to be here for the long haul, you may end up being disappointed, right? And again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying the information and news, right? Talked about the other reports that came out about the Spurs kind of contemplating and considering maybe even looking to trade him. Again, I'm not making stuff up. It's there. Go look it up. Again, Google exists, right? They got Dylan Harper. That wasn't in the cards. That wasn't an idea. That wasn't any, things change all the time. The NBA moves fast. Right? 1 minute you think this is the direction you're going to go, and then you realize, we're going over here. Now, again, De'Aaron Fox is probably the Spurs are probably going to give him that extension for X amount of years. They might be better off just giving him a long-term deal and then trading him when they feel like it's time to go, right? Like, if I was the Spurs, it's just me, right? Again, doesn't matter what I want, doesn't matter what anybody else wants. What do the Spurs want to do? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. But if it was me, I would give him the full deal. I'd give him the full max. If you can get him on a little bit of a discount, then great, right? If you can give him 5 years instead of making $50 million a year, if you can get him on, $45 million a year on average, right? Like, then now you got him locked up. Well, you can always trade him later, right? Especially if it's in the next year or two. There's going to be teams that are like, man, we could really use a point guard, or we could really use De'Aaron Fox or whatever, right? So where if you have him on a 2-year deal, like, you don't want to lose De'Aaron Fox for nothing, is my point. Right? You don't want to do a 1+1 and then this time next season, he's looking to get out, right? Like, it's just like, I don't want to necessarily see that. right? Like, I would rather sign him up long term and then figure it out later. Go make the trade if need be and see if you can turn him into, so especially at $50 million, you probably get 2 or 3 kind of upgraded players, especially if Dylan Harper starts to come into his own, right? The plan this year, look, they're going to have to make decisions regardless, right? Like, you're not starting Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and Stephon Castle for the next 5 years. You're not. You're too small, right? Like, it just, and again, they all kind of are best doing the same things, right? Like, that's not going to work, right? Like, you need to have real structure. I know people go, oh, NBA's positionless. It is, but it isn't. It's positionless essentially 2 through 4 in many ways, right? 2, 3, right? Like, the wing position. Right? You get a guy that's 6'6", he can slot in 2 or 3. You get a guy that's 6'8", right, or 6'7", he can slot in 3 through 4. Right? Like, that is positionless. But you see teams still value centers. Teams are actually stocking up on centers. Centers are kind of having a resurgence here again. Right? So centers are kind of becoming a big thing again. Right? And so again, you still need a center position. Right? Like, you look at teams that don't have centers, like the Warriors didn't have a center, they got ran through. The Lakers didn't have a center. Rudy Gobert looks like he's prime Shaquille O'Neal. You still need a center. You still need a point guard or somebody that can make plays, right? Not every team has the luxury of a Nikola Jokic that can essentially be your point guard. And so you can kind of operate with like 2 shooting guards essentially, right? Like, so again, they're going to have to make some tough decisions at some point. So Devin Vassell, what are you going to do with Devin Vassell, right? There's so many things that kind of come to mind when you're talking about this stuff. And, I know a lot of people don't want to see De'Aaron Fox go. A lot of people want De'Aaron Fox to be, the franchise guy. A lot of people think De'Aaron Fox is a super duper star. And look, all those things may be true, but you got to look at the situation. Like, if it comes down to, hey, we have to trade Dylan Harper, we have to trade De'Aaron Fox, they're probably going to choose trading De'Aaron Fox. You probably get more value, probably get more return, like just bigger contract, all of that. And they're going to have to pay this guy for the next 5 years. Right? So again, like, it makes sense that they may look to offer him a shorter term deal. So they're not locked into him for the next 5 years. If Dylan Harper starts to come into his own, all of a sudden he starts like, yeah, okay, he is that guy now. He is the Cade Cunningham or, a prime James Harden. Like, we got to best to put the ball in his hands and not De'Aaron Fox. As long as De'Aaron Fox is out there, he's going to be the point guard. Right? He isn't a 2 guard. He can't operate off ball the way that some of these other guys can. And again, your franchise going forward is Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle, right? With Victor Wembanyama, of course, but I'm talking about at the guard position. There were reports that literally came out the other day that talking about the Spurs' future and the big 3 and what the Spurs are looking at, and there was not a single mention of De'Aaron Fox. Right? It was their 2 young guards. Again, don't be shocked if this time next year you get an announcement that the San Antonio Spurs have traded De'Aaron Fox. Just saying. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. As we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.